Hi, this is Denise Mathew, and I'm here today with September subscriber charts. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's offered their charts for me to do an analysis on it. They've been really helpful, and thank you so much for allowing me to have a look at your chart. But going forward, because I've got a lot of other things I'm trying to work on, some more projects, and trying to get my website up and going, I'm not going to be accepting any more subscriber charts. But if I do plan on doing it in the future, I'll definitely let you guys know. So let's get started on the charts for today. So the first chart that we have is for the birthday August 23rd, 1981. What's interesting about the three charts that I have today are that they're all manifesting generators, and they're all manifesting generators who have the 3420 defined. Now, if you've looked at any of my other stuff, you'll notice that I definitely have done a lot of work with the 3420, so I think it's interesting that all three have it, and this wasn't planned in any way, shape, or form. So for sure, we're going to have three manifesting generators, because when you have the sacral right to the throat, that always makes somebody who's a manifesting generator. And the interesting thing about each chart is, if you look at the first chart that we have here, we have somebody who only has three defined centers. In fact, if they only had two defined centers, the sacral and the throat, that would still make them a manifesting generator. So there are different birthdays or certain birthdays that are for the sleeping phoenix. So that means that anybody who is born under the cross of sleeping phoenix will always be a manifesting generator. That's a given. So it's just a little bit of information, just a little bit of a fun fact. If we look at the three defined centers that we have first, before we get into the undefined, we're going to see that this person has a defined ajna, a defined throat, and also a defined sacral. So if someone has a defined sacral, they're always going to be a generator type or a manifesting generator. And if the sacral goes right to the throat like this one does, that means that they're always going to be a manifesting generator, because it's all about getting a motor to the throat. So whenever you can get a motor to the throat, that means you're a manifesting generator. So the other thing that we can notice here is that they have a defined ajna. Defined ajna is somebody who has an ability to hold on to fixed beliefs. Something else that I don't generally talk about is that when someone has a defined ajna, or a defined head even, they can have a better memory than somebody who has an open head and open ajna. The ajna is defined through the 1156. When you carry this energy, there can be an insatiable curiosity and a need to figure things out. And it's all about finding out new information. Usually it's information that you want to share with other people. You might dive into philosophies and wisdoms and investigate concepts and probe all kinds of belief systems, especially because it's related to the ajna, which can be all about belief systems. This can be somebody who's a world traveler who likes to go around places, and when you have it combined with the 35 as well, which is someone who potentially could be moving around to different places, because it is half of the 35-36 channel, which is all about the channel of transition, or a transitory channel where there can be some movement, or liking to go to different places and going to different homes and changing your homes frequently. Again, that's only if there's a potential to do that. You may want to travel, you may want to change your home, you may want to move to different countries, but only really if the potential is there for someone to be able to do it. Some people say this is the energy of the seeker, so somebody who's always seeking for more information and more knowledge and more new things. And I just talked about the gate 35. That is considered the jack or Jill of all trades, somebody who is good at a lot of things, and it's just easy for them. So they may get bored with new things unless there's some excitement to it. And then it all goes back to the 1156, which is all about, new and exciting things. So this could be somebody who really likes to find the next level of excitement that they can discover. Again, there's a lot of cerebral energy here because it's connected to the ajna, so it's somebody who's a deep thinker. We also have the gate 12 that's coming off the throat, and the gate 12 is considered a mystical gate, but it also can be the gate of boldness or shyness. So this can be somebody who can be extremely shy, or somebody who can be extremely bold. And it really is a mood centered type of energy, especially if it's connected to the 22 as well. But where there's only half of the channel, it probably isn't as dramatic here. The other thing about the gate 12 is that some people say it is related to or connected to somebody who can connect with the angelic or the otherworldly realms. So there can be a potential for that here. There's music in this gate as well. So this could be somebody who is inspired by music, or it really moves something in them when they hear certain types of music. We also have the gate 31 coming off the throat, and the gate 31 is all about leadership energy. And this is somebody who it's more of a democratic leadership energy, and because it's connected to the army. So this is a person who actually works with other people, and through their experience and through their ability to basically learn from the ground up, they become a better leader because they understand what the people that are working under them are experiencing. Now, I talked about the channel 3420, which is the channel of power and charisma. This is a very busy energy. This is a person who can work more than other people can work. There's just a natural potential to be a workaholic with this energy. So that's why it's really important for somebody who has this energy to understand their own energy and to know when enough is enough, because there's always a potential of burnout with this energy, even if you're a manifesting generator. And there's also the potential for thyroid issues because you have the motor of the sacral going directly to the throat. It's like a powerhouse of energy. But having said that, somebody who has this channel really needs to be able to do their work, to do the things they need to do, because if that energy is bottled up or they're not able to do what they want to do, then it can be a problem as well, and that can blow their thyroid just as easily. The good thing here is this person doesn't have a defined will, because with a defined will as well as the 3420, there's even more potential for burnout, because a defined will can push to beyond the limitations of a human, and they can actually make themselves sick by just going way beyond their capabilities, because the will center is such a powerhouse of energy. We also see that the gate 62 is defined. The gate 62 is all about practical energy, and it's all about having a practical purpose for most things in life. When you carry this energy, it's probably kind of difficult to just do things just for the heck of it. It's usually, there's always this backdoor kind of feeling of exactly what can I do with this? Why is this of any value? So sometimes somebody with this energy can have difficulty just unwinding and just relaxing and not just going all the time. So it's something that to keep in mind, that the energy piece can be there, but there's also this need to rest because we're human. And for this person, there could be a potential to, like I said, because of the 3420, that workaholic ethic and energy, as well as the 62 practical purpose for everything they do in their life, it could really push this person beyond their capabilities if they allow it. So that again is all about balance and knowing your energy and knowing when you need to rest as much as you need to work. They also have the gate 23. And the gate 23 is all about somebody who's a forward thinker. And what I mean by that is somebody who can think about ideas or things that are potentials for the future. So when you have this gate 23, you can think about a lot of things that are sort of really far in the future. And people who are around you may not necessarily understand what you're talking about because you're so far in the future that they can't understand the concepts. So the thing about this idea is to hold on to this idea, and usually in the future, the timing will be right, and you can start to bring some of these more innovative ideas into the real world. So if we look at the sacral, we see that the gate 34, which we already talked about, is defined, as well as the gate 59 and the gate 14. Now the gate 59 is all about intimacy and having intimate relationships. This can also be an energy of somebody who has like a sexual charisma or a sexual energy that they give off, and it's not even something that they try to do. It's just something that's innate. So people can feel it, and people can be romantically drawn to this person, even if this person is not giving out those vibes. So it's just something to keep in mind, especially when this person has it in the first line, which is also all about investigating. So this person could be investigating that sexual charisma or that intimacy, and have a lot of different intimate relationships with people. And now intimacy is not only sexual, it's in relation to any kind of intimate relationship you have. And that could be friendships, it could be any kind of relationship, even partnerships. So it's all about intimacy and the different boundaries of intimacy. So if we look at the open centers, we see that there's a lot of openness in this chart. So we have an open head, open identity, open will center, open spleen, open root, and also open solar plexus. There are two pressure centers in human design, the head center and also the root, and especially when you have it open. So if you have an open root, there's always this need to get things done, to finish your tasks, and when you finish your task, you'll be free. But the reality is you're never really free, because there's always a new task to take over the old task. There's an inability sometimes to just relax and to let things go, or the other option is to be someone who's an adrenaline junkie who likes to let everything build up to the last moment, and only then do they start to get the work they need to get done. So it can manifest in different ways. And also somebody who has an open root can like caffeine and a lot of the things that give you a little bit of a rush: caffeine, chocolate, sugar, those kind of things. The head center is open as well. What that means is that you're inspired, or this person can be inspired quite a bit, because the thing about any energy that is going into the head center or any center that's open, it's a fluid energy, and it's influenced by the people that are around you. So if this person is out in an environment with a lot of people thinking, especially anybody with a defined head, then this person could be getting all that energy, and it it builds up, and because of the open centers, when energy goes in, that always doesn't just go in, it also amplifies the energy. So this is a person who could be very inspired a lot and get sidetracked. They also have the gates 64 and 61. So when you have that energy of those two gates, especially when they're hanging and there's nowhere to go, there can be a potential for somebody with this energy to get stuck in their head or to be lost in their thoughts a lot, because when you don't have an outlet or a connection coming from the 64, 61 into the ajna, then there could be this whole idea of all these thoughts being trapped inside of your head. And because the 61 and 64 are defined, that could be somebody who dreams a lot, and they could even have prophetic dreams or dreams that come true. Going back to the root center, the gates and the root center that are defined are the gate 60 and also the gate 41. The gate 60 is all about really the limitations that we have when you're starting something new. So if you have the gate 3, which is all about, they call it difficulty in the beginning, and that's when you're trying to bring some new information or new genetic material, and it has to prove itself of value before it actually gets put into the mainstream. The gate 60 is where we hold all the things that we know that work. So when you have it combined with the 3, which this person doesn't have, but just talking about exactly how it works together, then you have somebody who's trying to get something new and innovative, but you also have this idea that there's a limitation to how things can be brought into being. So what this says is that the gate 60 is all about the limitations that we must live within, because everybody has some level of limitations. So when you have the gate 60, this is just talking about the limitations that we have in our lives. And if we're talking about the fact that this person also has a gate 23, which is all about new innovative ideas, there could be a lot of practicality because of the 62 to bring these new and innovative ideas into being, because this person can see that there are limitations to everything, and not everything is just, I guess what you would say would be, this person is more of someone who's not a dreamer, somebody who decides on things and looks at a practical perspective. But then you probably also have this level of dreaming as well, because you have the 61 and you also have the 64 defined, which are the gates of the dreamer. So there could be a very good balance between bringing dreams into reality, but knowing that dreams don't just show up and get, Shazam, it all works the way it wants to. This is a person who could bring it into manifestation in a way that it's practical and in a way that it's doable, especially when you have all this energy that's coming through the 3420 right to the throat. I mean, it's this, the biggest and most powerful motor in the whole body graph is actually going right to the throat. So this person has a great potential for manifestation. And then if we build on that, we look at the gate 41. This is a gate of fantasy. And because the gate 41 is so low in the chart, as in its perspective to the throat center, it takes a lot of work for this fantasy to make it into reality. It has to go right up to, through the solar plexus, or it has to go through the root center into the sacral, into the identity, or it could have quite a convoluted path to get to the throat. So what that means is you have to be able to hold on to that idea or hold on to that fantasy to bring it into reality. And because of all this practical energy that's here as well, and this energy of somebody who is a workaholic, this is probably somebody who could bring some pretty innovative ideas to the table if they wanted to, because they're able to hold on to it, the whole fantasy piece, bring the dream into reality, have a practical perspective of it, know the limitations of how it's going to come into being, and have all this power and charisma to show everybody exactly how it all works. But again, with the gate 23, it's all about a timing piece. And when the timing is correct, these things can be magical. And because the gate 23 is found in this person's Mars is an energy that we grow as we get older, and it starts to mature. And the older you get, as in, closer to 40 and thereabouts, 40 seems to be the magical age, but when you get closer to that age, then that's a more mature energy, and you can understand exactly how to use that new and innovative ideas. And because it's in a third line, it's a 23-3 third line. It's all about experimenting with these innovative ideas. So this will be someone who could have a few bumps against the wall before they finally figure it out. But when they do, they'll have all the information and backing to say why it didn't work and what will work in the future. Because again, this person is a 1-3 profile, which I didn't mention because I do have the full videos on all the profiles. So if you need more information about that, you can just check those out. But because this person is a 1-3, this is a person who's investigative and experimental. So this is a person who's going to have the tried and true ways to bring all these innovative work ideas or ideas to the table with all the other parts of their chart. So it's quite an interesting chart in that it could be somebody with really great inventive ideas or great ways of doing things. And it doesn't always have to be a product. It could be just a way of doing things. So if we move over to the spleen, we have the gates 48, the gate 32, and also the gate 18 all defined. And the gate 32 is all about ambitions. We also have the gate 18, which is all about finding the perfected form or perfection in what you do. The gate 48 is also the gate of depth. Now, the thing about the spleen is that it's all about fear gates. Everything that comes out of the spleen, all the gates that come out of the spleen are all considered fear gates. So there can be some fear in this area, especially when you have the gate 48, because this can be the idea that maybe you don't know enough before you're actually going out into the world and showing people what you have, especially since it's not connected to the gate 16, which is the enthusiasm to bring new ideas and what you've researched into the world. So there's always that potential, but it doesn't have to be. It's just something to know about. And because the spleen gates are all about the fears that we can push through, it's really important to know that this fear could be something bigger in your mind than it is in reality. And also that if you push through this energy and push through this fear, usually it does dissipate and it does get easier every time you do it. The gate 32 is all about big ideas, big ambitions. But this whole concept, again, we go back to the fear. It's about this fear that things probably won't work out the way you want to. But there is a lot of ambition to get things done. So if they can let go of the fear and know that when the timing is right and when things all fall into place, that things will move forward for them, then they can continue on and use that ambition that they have in a very productive way. And you also have the gate 18, and the gate 18 is things not being perfect enough, not being just right. So you have someone who wants to have a depth of information, a lot of information, wants to get to the bottom of everything, who's very ambitious, but somebody who also may want everything perfect. So sometimes, again, you have to push through these ideas and push these concepts and say, it may not be perfect, but it's good enough. And usually somebody with the 48, because they don't understand how much they actually get into the depth of things, usually they're very well prepared, and they're in no way going to find that they don't know what they think they don't know. So again, pushing through all these fears and knowing that nothing in the world is ever going to be perfect. There's always going to be little things that can be corrected. But if you get stuck in that little space of always wanting to correct everything, you really never get to put anything out into the real world. And on the sacral, we also have the gate 14. I forgot to mention that one. That's all about somebody who can see the potential in other people. This can also be an energy of someone who's very lucky. And sometimes people say that this can be a manifesting energy, so that when someone's working and they're getting things done, especially when this is going to go right to the throat, this could be somebody, again, who has an ability to manifest things into the real world with their intention. And if you look at the identity center, we also have somebody who has the gate 46. Now, the gate 46 is an energy that can be difficult in one way, but can be very rewarding in another. The gate 46 is about the energy of being on the right path. Now, somebody who has the gate 46, if they get sick or there's something wrong with their body, or they're having some illnesses, or they're having some issues with injuries even, the thing about the gate 46 is that the body is considered the vehicle of the soul. So in other words, in order to nurture your soul, you need to take care of your body. So this person, it would be very essential for somebody with the gate 46 to take really good care of their body, but not just in their perspective of anybody in the world telling them how they should take care of their body. It's more of their perspective of what they feel is right for their body. So in other words, if they felt that smoking cigarettes every day was healthy for their body and it was good for them, then that would be good for them, because that's perspective of somebody who has a gate 46. What they feel is correct for their body is what's correct for their body, as opposed to the general consensus. And when their body is in a place where they feel they're comfortable with it, how they look, how they feel, how they move, then usually they get in what's called the flow of life. And when they get in the flow of life, they're on the path to where they're supposed to be. It's like a path of destiny, a path of purpose. And when they're off the path, that's usually when they show up with some sort of an illness or some health-ish issue. So that's a real good barometer for how they're doing on their destiny and their path of life based on their actual health. And because this person has an open spleen, I didn't mention that, they can also be somebody who is medically intuitive as well. So if we go off to the solar plexus, we see that the gate 55 is the only gate that's actually defined on the solar plexus. And because the solar plexus is open, that means this person could be a natural empath as well. And they can be affected by a lot of the emotional energy around them. So this person may need to get away from a lot of people. It might be overwhelming because there is so much openness in their chart. And when they get too much coming at them, they may need to just kind of get away from it and decompress and, get back to their own energy. And the gate 55 is all about surrender, and it's, up in the conscious earth. So it means that it's going to be really important in their life. And so you have all this powerhouse energy going in this whole body graph, but then you have this whole concept that your path is really going to be shown to you with the gate 55. It's really surrendering to something that's bigger than you. And when you have all this power and energy, especially when you have the gate 30, the channel 3420, this could be somebody who wants to direct their life, but they may find that the more they try and direct their life in a specific way and not really, like I said, walk in the flow or, walk the path of their life, especially with the 46 as well, they may feel that they get sort of bumping into walls and things are just not working as well as they want to. And the whole thing about surrender is to know that you do whatever you can do, but that at some point in your life, you will get to the point where you've done everything you can and really there's nothing else you can do. And at that point, you have to put it into the hands of something bigger than you, a greater force, whatever you want to call it. It could be God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And when you learn the surrender piece, it's a really hard piece to learn, but when you learn it, things get a little easier in your life and you get more in the flow. They also have the will center, which is open. This can be sometimes someone who doesn't value what they can bring to the table. There could be a undervaluing of how much they're worth financially, like as in how much they should be paid, how much they should charge if they have their own business. If this seems to be a problem, then it's always nice to have another opinion on what they should charge for a service, or if they're doing a job, what they should charge, or how much they should be paid. And just if they have somebody who they can trust to talk about it, to let them know and give them perspective on the value of what they can do. And I guess the market value for everybody else and what they're doing the same thing. And if you look, there's also the gate 26, and that's the only gate that's coming off the will center. Again, the gate 26 is all about selling ideas that are good for not only the individual, but also good for the collective. This is tribal energy. And so it has to be something that you're selling that is really going to help more than just you. And when it's helping more than just you, like in other words, you're not giving up your own value, or you're not giving up yourself because of this energy or this thing that you're giving, you're still benefiting as well, but other people are benefiting. And when you have that idea, which when you combine it with all the other ideas that we've already talked about, this idea of, the gate 23 was innovative ideas and practicality and knowing the limitations, and also this powerhouse of energy, you have somebody who could really sell some really cool and innovative ideas to the collective, and they could benefit as well because the 14 is also going to be there to help out with, have that little bit of boost of luck. And also the 46 can be a very lucky energy if you're actually walking the path of life as well. Normally I'd talk a little bit more about the incarnation cross, but because I've done so much work on that incarnation cross of the sleeping phoenix, I'm not going to go into it in great detail. But the whole thing about the cross of the sleeping phoenix is there's this idea that in 2027, anybody who carries this energy or has this cross will be activated, because there's going to be some change it's a human design thing where they'll be here to bring mutative ideas into the collective in 2027. And they're going to use their power and charisma to bring those collective ideas to everybody. And because they also have tribal energy as well as individual energy in the reincarnation cross, it just shows that it's going to be for the tribe, but it's also this individual twist as well. And that's about all I have to say for this chart. Of course, there's always more to say, but I'm just going to hold it off there, and I'm going to go on to the next chart. So the next chart we have is for the birthday October 16th, 1993. And as I said before, this is also a manifesting generator, and we can tell that because they have a motor going directly to the throat, 3420. Through the channel 3420, which I just talked about quite a bit. Now, unlike the other chart that we just did, this is a manifesting generator who has a lot of definition in their chart, as opposed to the other person only had 3 defined centers. This person has 5 defined centers. So they have a defined throat, defined identity, a defined sacral, defined root, as well as a defined spleen. So if we look at the throat, we see that this person has the gate 62, which we just talked about. That's a gate of practicality, bringing a practical purpose to everything they do. And it's up in their unconscious sun, which means it's something that would be quite part of who they are, being very practical. And because it's in the unconscious side of their chart, which is the design part, they may not be necessarily aware of it as much as they would be of other parts of them, especially since they're well below 40. But that means that because they're not aware of it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't manifest or doesn't show up, that other people may really see that practical perspective of who they are. And they also have the gate 35, which the other person had as well, which is also about the Jack or Jill of trades and just the person who could be good at a lot of things. But because they're good at a lot of things, that usually means that they, earlier in life, they may like to do a lot of different things or try a lot of different things, but they not necessarily, as they get older, do they want to continue just to try things just for the thrill of it. They want to, they become more decisive about what they want to pick up and what they want to just leave and not really bother doing, because they can be so good, naturally good at so many different things. This can be also somebody who likes to travel or also likes to get a lot of new things, new innovative things, especially since they have the gate 43, which is on the undefined ajna. The gate 43 is the matching gate to the gate 23 that I just talked about. And that's, again, just talking about new and innovative ideas. So you have this whole channel which brings new and innovative ideas like Elon Musk, the Tesla car, which of course he took an idea that was already in play but really made it his own. And you also have Steve Jobs, who had this kind of energy as well. So if we see the next defined center is they have a defined identity. This is generally somebody who has more of an idea who they are. And usually there's somebody who has more of an idea of what they like. Somebody with an open identity is usually somebody who has more of a fluid energy, and they may have a difficult time trying to pin down exactly what they like. But as they get older, they get more of an ability to know exactly what they like and what they don't like. So this is a person who can, from an early age, have more of a concept of what they want to do in their life. This is not always the case, but there is potential for that to be the case. They also have the gate 1 off the identity, and what that is talking about is somebody who has this feeling that they potentially have a lot to give to the world, or they have something really important to give to the world. And this is all about a creative energy that they can give to the world, something that they can bring that will be creatively driven. And you also, like I said, you have the 43 as well. Again, this is innovative. So it's a really creative energy to bring these new and innovative ideas into the collective. And you also have this, huge amount of manifesting energy because you have the defined sacral going right to the defined throat. So the manifestation is going directly. And all the things I said about the thyroid, just being careful about the thyroid and knowing when enough is enough is going to come into play, because again, this is the 3420, which is an extremely powerful energy, but there can be this potential for not knowing when to stop, because it's basically the channel of somebody who can be a workaholic. And they also have the gate 46, which we talked about. That's the energy of just really having this great connection with your body and feeling good about your body. And when you feel good about your body, you usually get on the right path in life. And when your body is showing you illnesses or some issues that you can't really even sometimes describe, or they could be medical issues that you can't have a diagnosis on because they don't really know. But generally, when you start to walk the path of what your life is supposed to be, then usually your health gets better. And the interesting thing about the gate 46 is there can be health issues that come up in this person's life. And usually the health issues that come up are in relationship to getting them on their correct path. So I've heard of people who there was one person who had the gate 46 and they had like a bad car accident or something like that, and they went into the hospital. And so from the perspective of getting in an accident, it sounds pretty awful, as it would be for anybody. But when they went into the hospital, the nurse that they met was somebody that they fell in love with and they ended up getting married to. So it was one of those really weird things that happened to their body, and it sort of made them go in the right direction in their life. Now, I'm not saying this dramatic kind of event is going to happen to anybody, but these kind of things can potentially happen where an injury will take a person in a different direction. And when they go in that direction, actually, George Lucas, I believe, had the same thing. And he had a really bad car accident when he was young because he wanted to be a race car driver. And what happened was he had a very bad car accident, almost was killed, and then he decided he didn't want to do race cars anymore. And of course, he's made movies and so forth. And if he never did, that would have been a completely different world we would be in if he never made movies at all. So it's a pretty powerful energy, and there can be luck in this energy to get you on the right direction as well. But you just really have to be in connection with your body, feeling good about who you are, and that kind of thing. And there's also the 59-5, and this is all about humanitarian energy. This is about what's good for potentially the environment and the human race as a whole. There's could be somebody who's an environmentalist with this energy. If anything, this person, anybody who carries a 5 or 15 or the both, like in this case, is somebody who has what's considered an aura busting energy, or an energy that when somebody walks into this room, they're going to have a big presence. They're always going to have a big presence with the 3420 anyways, but then this is just an added emphasis to say that when somebody with this energy walks into the room, everybody notices. And they're also a 3-5 profile, so that's another energy that is always going to be noticed. A 5 will never get into any room without being noticed, no matter if it's unconscious or conscious. And we also have the gate 42. The gate 42 is all about a closing energy or finishing a project. So somebody who has a gate 42 may have a difficult time initiating projects, but when the project is started, they can continue on and do really well with it. So they might feel that it's really difficult to get started, but once they get started, they can really do well in moving things along. And the interesting thing about somebody with a gate 42 is if they meet the opposing gate, because the whole channel is a channel of cycles, if they meet somebody with the opposing gate and they get into a relationship, until that relationship has gone through its complete cycle, that's only when they can stop in that relationship. Generally, I mean, I'm not saying it's always going to be the case, but that is the theory, that once you get started in something, you have to see it through to the end, and only after you see it through the end can you sort of get off the cycle or get out of the cycle. But the most important thing to know about somebody when you carry this 42 is that if you're going to get a job, you want to make sure it's a job that's going to go to your best potential, which means that you're best at project management as opposed to project initiating. Because if somebody with this energy is given a job where they're supposed to go out and start a bunch of different projects, or getting new business or things like that, it could be really difficult for them to do. And there's also the channel 3254. I talked about the 32 with the last chart. The 32 is a fear gate, and it's also about ambition, and it's also about the idea that your ambitious plans may not come to fruition. But it also has a connection to the 54, and the 54 are all the ideas or the big parts of all the things they need to make these ambitious plans to work. So in other words, if you have an ambitious plan, this is almost like the template when you get the 54 together to put these ambitious plans together. But there's also always going to be that level of fear potentially that they can't get it done, or there's not an ability to get done. So again, like I mentioned before, is just pushing through that energy and knowing that when the timing is right, things will come into fruition. And it's also on the root. So these ambitious plans and ideas, are usually going to come when the root is defined. It's usually about a pulse energy where the pulse is on and then it's off. So usually this energy is about something that the ambitious plans or these ideas will, again, it's a timing thing. And usually it's only when this person feels like they want to do it or the pulse is on so that they can start to work on these plans. They also have the gate 18. And if we're moving on to the spleen, so the spleen, the gate 18 is defined, and that's again another fear gate, and that's all about just having things perfect, but almost getting lost in the idea of having things too perfect and not being able to make things happen or to put it out into the world if they allow it. But if they push through again these fears and realize that they're not as big as maybe their mind is making it, they can actually get the ideas or the big ambitious plans out into the world. And there's also the gate 42 on the spleen. And the gate 42 is all about the energy of making something beautiful to sell. So this is the opposite of the other person who had the gate 26, which is actually, making or closing the deal of an idea or a plan that you want to sell. And the 42 is making it look nice so that it's saleable. This person can be somebody who likes to do make things beautiful. They might like interior decorating. They may like creative endeavors. It could even be something as easy as creative writing, where they're creatively making things look better. Ultimately, it's all about a sales energy. So there's a great potential for somebody with this energy to be able to be good at sales, both selling themselves and also selling products. So if we look at the open centers, we have somebody with an open ajna, an open head, an open will, and also an open solar plexus. And so if we look at the head, we notice that this is a pressure center, which I mentioned before. And what that means is this the pressure to figure things out. There's somebody who could be inspired a lot, especially when they're out in a group of people, because anybody who has a defined head would be sending inspirations out. I mean, they're not actually thinking about it, but about doing it. Somebody with a defined head is just sending out inspirations for anybody with an open head to pick up. So in other words, what happens is somebody who has an open head can go out into a group or out into the public, and they can have this idea that they want to research or look at something that is completely out there that they really hadn't thought about before, and they might go home and start researching it and then suddenly just decide they have no idea why they're actually even looking at it, because it's not even something that's important to them. So they can get lost in their head, especially when they have the gates 64 and also 61 defined coming from the head. Again, getting lost in your thoughts, getting lost in this idea of all these inspirations that are coming into your mind and trying to figure them out. You also have the 61, which is I talked about. It's one of the dreaming gates as well as 64. All the 64, 61, and 63 are considered the dreaming gates, but they can also be considered the gates of madness, because you just get lost in your head so much trying to figure things out that sometimes it can drive you a little bit crazy, because you're just trying to figure things out, and it just kind of gets too much, and then you just you get frustrated. And sometimes, again, just letting this go, especially when you have the gate 61, it's extremely intuitive energy that you can have intuitive downloads. And sometimes people say that you can have mediumship abilities or an ability to see spirits. But if you don't, that's perfectly fine as well. This is just, a potential. The other thing about the gate 61 is this whole idea of trying to figure out the things that can't be figured out. So again, it can kind of get you lost in your thoughts too much. And because there is no outlet for the head to allow the ideas to go into the ajna or to go anywhere really other than the head, this could be this mental congestion. And again, just getting out and getting away from your thoughts, or just letting it go whenever you just get to the end of it where you can't figure out anymore, and you just have to let it go because it just gets too frustrating for you. And usually they say when you have an open head, the question is this my idea to actually be investigating? Is it that important for me to actually know the information to this? And usually the answer is no. And if we go to the ajna, I've already talked about the ajna, and the only gate that is defined on the ajna is the gate 43. Again, new innovative ideas. But the biggest thing with the new and innovative ideas is that they are things that are a time-based thing. So it's the right timing. And when the timing is right, things can be brought into reality. But usually a lot of times when you have either the gate 43 or the 23 or even the whole channel, you can have these ideas that are ahead of their time, and sometimes you'll get frustrated because you're coming out with this, amazing idea that you think everybody will love, and it goes flat. But then a couple years later, or even a couple of months later, everybody thinks it's an amazing idea. So again, if it's something that's really important and there's value in it, sometimes just sitting on it and waiting for correct timing. And because anything from the ajna doesn't have a motor, there are no motors that go to the ajna, it's something that needs to be called out of you or asked for before it's given. And if somebody asks you for the information, it will go much better than if you're actually just telling people the information that you have. So if we also look at the will center is undefined, but it's not only just undefined, it's got no gates at all. So it means that the energy, of course, of willpower is extremely fluid. But because there is no energy at all in the will center from the gates, the energy is coming in, but there's nothing defined. What that means is that this is a person who can be extremely generous, or generous to a fault, as they would say, just always giving too much of themselves and not seeing the value in who they are. You can generally get this anyway when you have an open will, but it's even more dramatic when you have an open will that has no gates at all. There can be potential for stomach issues when you have no gates at all. And there, again, is this whole idea of not understanding your value. So it's always, especially if you're having your own business, or if you're selling products, or if you're looking for a job raise or things like that, that you consult with somebody else who you really trust, who, even if they have a defined will, that would be helpful too, but not necessarily it has to be that way, but they can help you to really discern that you have an inherent value, and that maybe you don't see it for what it is, but other people definitely can see it for what it is. And there's also an open solar plexus or emotional center, and we have somebody who has the gate 49 as also the gate 30 that are defined. Now, when you have an open emotional center, the first thing is you're always going to have this energy that is fluid. It's not a defined energy that's coming in waves like you would when you have a defined emotional center. So that means that you're dependent upon the other people or the people that are around you. So you might get a little more stressed out, a little more overwhelmed when you're out in public areas with a lot of people with big emotions. And because it basically is much like a sponge, where it's soaking up a lot of this energy, and as any open center, you're actually soaking up the energy, but you're not just soaking it up, you're amplifying it. And somebody who has this energy can have big emotions because they're sort of amplifying and projecting out the energy that they have taken in. So rather than doing that in a way where it can be almost explosive, because it gets to the point where it's just so full, this person can kind of take a break and get away from the energy of other people and kind of be alone if they can at all possible, and lay down for about 15 minutes. Most people say that this will help. If that doesn't help, you can do exercise, or there's other ways of releasing the energy, and really finding out what works for you is the way to release this energy. Because a lot of times somebody who has an open emotional center can feel like they're extremely emotional, and in reality, given their space and time, they may not be as emotional as they think they are. So learning to know what's yours and what's not yours is one of the biggest lessons that somebody with an open emotional center can learn. And when we have the gate 49, is all about the gate of revolution. It's also about revolutionary ideas, about new and innovative ideas. And if you have it with the 43 as well, we have somebody who can really be somebody who's a trailblazer, who's bringing out these brand new and innovative ideas, but maybe not necessarily understanding the value of these ideas or the value of what they can bring, because they have that completely open will center. And this is also a person who might do very well in marriage, because anybody with the gate 49 or half of the gate, the channel 1949, could be somebody who is kind of born for being married. It's an energy of somebody who would like to be in a partnership, not necessarily having a family with children, but just having a family with a partner and being completely happy with that. And they also have the gate 30, which is all about intensity, and that links up to the gate 41. And we talked about the 41 just a couple minutes ago, and the gate 41 is all about fantasy or dreams or ideas that you want to bring into reality. And there's a lot of fantasy in here. They also say that people who have this energy can connect to the fairy realm, or the I guess their elemental realm, where they have this connection with the elementals or the earth. They might like to hike, they may like to get out into nature, especially when you have an open emotional center. Really getting out into nature and getting away from people might be one of those things that helps a lot to dissipate the energy that you're picking up all the time. The gate 30 can be very intense, and there can be this ability to burn yourself out as well as burning out other people. And the reason why this happens is because somebody who has the gate 30 is somebody who can carry an idea or hold on to an idea almost infinitum, and they can hold on to it to bring it into fruition. I mean, that's the whole point of this energy, is to hold on to an idea to bring it into fruition. But sometimes when they hold on to an idea and they're telling everybody about the idea, this can be a little bit exhausting to other people, and they can burn other people out because of that. And they can also burn themselves out by just being too intense about holding on to things and actually not letting go. And especially since it's in the unconscious Saturn, which means it's a lesson, and it's a role model, which means a 30 in line 6, which is the role model energy of the gate, which is holding on to an idea. But the 3 different stages with any 6 line energy, we go through the 3 stages of the 0 to 28, which is that experimental stage, and then 28 to 50 is when you're kind of integrating all the information you've learned for the first 28 years of your life. And this is all in relation to the gate 30. And then after the age 50, then you come into the whole fullness of what the gate 30 means to you, and how intense you want to hold on to ideas, and what ideas are worth holding on to, and what ideas are you can let go and just move on to something that's more valuable to you. And also because you have the 3420, the channel of power and charisma, which can actually, it's a lot of energy, and there's a potential for a lot of workforce energy to be done, but there's also this potential for burning yourself out. You also have the gate 30, which is intensifying. I mean, it literally intensifies the whole chart. So knowing your energy and knowing your limitations, understanding what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and when you need rest and when work is the right thing to do, will be very valuable information. So if we talk about the incarnation cross, this is a right angle cross of the Maya. Now the Maya is considered the material world, or the real world we live in. So when we're talking about the cross of the Maya, we're talking about the cross of living in the real world. And like all incarnation crosses, this incarnation cross is made up of the top 4 numbers, and the top 4 numbers are the conscious sun 32, unconscious sun 62, conscious earth 42, and the unconscious earth, it's 61. So if we talk about the 32, we talked about that already, and that's where all the energy for the whole chart usually gets filtered through the sun, because the sun is who we are, it's our personality, just like it would be for astrology. So as we talked before, the gate 32 is all about ambition, and it's in the line 3 because this person is a 3-5 profile. So we're talking about somebody who is ambitious, but we're also talking about someone who is experimenting with ambition. So they're finding out what works and what doesn't work. And usually for the first 40 years of their life, this is when they get the most information gathering of all the experiments in their life and what's working and what's not working. And the reason why they experiment is so that they can experiment to figure out what works for everybody, and they can relay the information so that other people don't have to experiment. They'll have the results already, so people will know what works and what doesn't work right off the bat. So they're experimenting with ambition, and again, that's their sun, so that would be a big part of who they are. And if we look at their unconscious sun, the part of them that they may not necessarily know about themselves until they're a little bit older, after 40 again, would be the gate 62. And this is about, which we talked about, that practicality piece. Now it's in the line 5, which means that it's a universalizing energy. And what that means is that they're here to universalize the energy of being practical, or how you can be practical in the real world, because we're talking about the Maya again, right? So then we go to the conscious earth, which is in the gate 42, and this is all about closing the deal. And again, this is experimenting with closing the deal. It's experimenting with closing energy, or finishing projects, or getting things done. And then we have the gate 61, 61 in the unconscious earth. Now the gate 61, like I said, is all about searching to know the unknowable. There can be a deep connection with the occult or anything that's esoteric or unusual. There could be a deep need to know more than what you see. There could be a feeling that they want to really delve into the unknown, unseen, unexplored topics of the world and the things that go bump in the night, you could say. But then if you also have it with the 62, you think about somebody who's bringing practical form or practical ideas on how to bring the occult into the world. Ambitious ideas about how to close the deal or to close the cycle, because like I said before, I don't know if I've talked about it in this chart or the chart before, that the gate 42 and the gate 53 together are a cyclical energy. So it's like a cycle. So if the gate 42 gets in contact or into a relationship with the gate 53, that relationship has to play out until it's done, when the cycle is over, before it usually can end. That is the theory, that with this energy, it's very cyclical. So if you had the full channel, the 42-53, you'd want to make sure that whatever things you start or the things you get into are things you really want to get into, because generally when you get on it, it's like a treadmill that doesn't stop until the program's finished. And because the gate 32 is tribal energy, it's tribal energy that you want to have some ambition, that you're going to have some material value out of it. And again, we're going back to the Maya, which is the real world to the real form. So there could be a potential for somebody with this energy or with this incarnation cross to have some occult knowledge, or like astrology. They could be an astrologer, or they could be a numerologist, or some spiritual way of being, or even a thought process that already exists, but basically they're coming in and they're adding to it and bringing it to fruition, I would say, bringing it to close so that other people can get benefit from it. Because again, this is a tribal energy, and the tribal energy is all about bringing it to the tribe or your tribe. So it could be more specific to the tribe. And when I talk about tribe, I talk about the people that matter to you, the people who are your friends, the people who are your family, the people who basically are important to you. It's completely different than a collective energy, which is more about the idea that you're giving the information to the whole a bunch of people because it's important for everybody to know, but it doesn't necessarily have to be people who are important to you. In this incarnation cross alone, you have the gate 32, which is all tribal, and then you have the gate 42 and also the 62, which are collective, and then you have the gate 61, which is individual. So you have a lot of different energy here, which is good in the fact that the person is expressing their individuality. They're going to give this information that they're learning to both the tribal people or the people that matter to them, but also the collective as well. So you have all facets of the different circuitry involved in this one incarnation cross. Now, alternately, you could say that this could be a little bit of problematic of an incarnation cross, because some incarnation crosses by nature can have a few problems inherently in them, because they do have the tribal and different energies that are mixed, because the tribal energy is really a specific energy that wants, when you are part of a tribe, people want you to be part of that tribe. So the individuality piece can be a little bit problematic when you're always meant to be, or kind of encompassed or engrossed in this tribal energy, because you're wanting to be like the tribe, which means you follow and do everything like the tribe does. But on the other hand, you still want to be an individual as well. So when you have those two energies, they can be a little conflicting. So the piece about the incarnation cross is to figure out what works for you and how can you bring your individuality into the tribe and just allow yourself to be who you are as well as being in the tribe. And then people in the tribe will understand that you can be part of the tribe, but you can also be part of the tribe with your individuality intact as well. So that's about all I have to say for this chart. And let's move on to the next chart. And the next chart is for the birthday March 2nd, 1975. And as I said before, this is the third chart, third manifesting generator, and third chart with a 3420 that is defined. Now, if we're looking at just the defined centers, we see that there's a defined throat, defined will, defined sacral, and also defined solar plexus. So we have a lot of openness in this chart too, as we did with the first chart. Now, the one thing that we do have that's different is this person has a defined will. So you have a defined will as well as you have the channel 3420, which is this superhuman ability to work harder than most people can just because of this energy. And anybody who has this energy they can be a super worker or a workaholic. Then you also have somebody with a defined will. So you have somebody who in all capability can really have a lot of work done and they'd be someone who, if you hired them, they certainly could get a lot of work done, probably run circles around a lot of people. That's if they don't burn themselves out, because ultimately when you have a willpower energy as well, you have a defined will, then you're going to have the ability to push through your capabilities as a human being and get to the point where you literally have burnt yourself out because you haven't stopped for anything at all. And because of the nature of the will center, when you have a defined will, the energy is all about what they call work to rest. So there is periods of time when the will center is meant to do their work, but then there has to be equal amounts of periods of rest time. And it doesn't have to be equal time, but it has to be periods of rest after work. And so how that works for everybody is individual. So some people need more rest and some people might need less. But ultimately, if somebody who has a defined will, especially when they have this whole 3420 channel as well, if they want to push themselves beyond their capabilities, they certainly can do that. But what will happen is if they don't take the rest as is needed with the will center, the rest will be made for them. And that can be having issues with their health. They could have issues with having accidents. They could have issues with just these random things that will happen that will take them out of the fray so that they will get the rest they need. So for somebody with a defined will, even without having the 3420, it's really, really important for them to understand that they do need to have a break after they do the work. And if they do, that's going to benefit them the most. So they actually can have these spells of work and really get a lot done, but not have to suffer for all the energy that they've expended by overdoing it and having to recover because they've actually really burnt themselves out. The other thing about the defined will center is the defined will center is energetically, it's like an energy that comes in with an intensity. And if you also have the 3420 as well, that's another energy that comes in with a huge intensity. So when this person walks into the room, because they also have the gate 5 that's defined on the sacral, when this person walks into the room, they're a force to be reckoned with. I mean, they are noticed and they are a powerhouse, and it's almost like the intensity of the room just kind of shoots up to catastrophic levels because they're just a walking powerhouse, basically, is what they are. A person who has this type of energy, because they have so much power, can have issues with trying to slow down and trying to shut it down so that they can get their break. And a celebrity who has a configuration that's similar to this but not exactly the same would be Russell Brand. And I mean, he would be considered somebody who's quite powerful too, because you have, with him, he also has the ego center or the will center right to the throat. But this person has the sacral to the throat as well as the solar plexus to the throat. So that's literally three. There's three because the will center is actually going through the solar plexus as well. So this person has 3 motors going to the throat. So if the name of the game in human design is to get power and motor to the throat, we have 3 motors going to the throat, as well as we have the gate 14, which is natural luck. So what you have is somebody with a lot of potential to be quite successful in their life. And if there's anything that might slow them down slightly, and I'm just going to throw this in, although I'm not doing the undefined centers yet, is the gate 39. Now, the gate 39 is in their Saturn, and the gate 39 is the match to the gate 55. I did talk about the gate 55 in the first chart. The gate 39 is the provocation that goes into the gate 55, which is the gate of abundance, or also the gate of surrender, where you have to surrender to what is so that you can understand that you don't always have everything figured out. There's always going to be something bigger than you that can take care of the details when you've done everything you can. So although the gate 39 is not exactly like the 55, whenever you have these matching gates, they have a lot of the same themes. Now, the gate 39 is a provocation, or in other words, it provokes us into this concept that if we just surrender to the flow of life, that we will be taken care of and we'll be shown the way and we'll be able to walk our path. Surrender is a pretty tough thing for most most people to do, to understand that, they don't always have a backup plan for God, because there is, or God, universe, whatever. There's a high level of trust that's required when you have the gate 39 or the gate 55 or the whole channel. There's a high level of trust that things will get taken care of if you've done everything you can. And because this is in the Saturn, this gate 39, then that shows that this person might have this as a bit of a stumbling block. And the other side of their Saturn is the gate 53, which is somebody who can be, they're the exact opposite of the 42 that I just talked about. They're the initiator, whereas the 42 is the closer. So this could be somebody who starts a lot of projects, but doesn't necessarily finish them. And that's part of what they're designed to do. That's part of who they are. But having said that, in the world we live in, somebody who starts a project but doesn't necessarily finish it could be considered somebody who's a quitter, or somebody who doesn't, come through when they're supposed to. But on the other hand, if you look at it as a perspective of a talent, in that you can start things and other people can come in and finish it. So this would be a person who would be great for initiating any kind of projects, or initiating any kind of concepts, ideas, businesses, things like that, but not necessarily sticking around to see it through. So if they know that about themselves, and if they do in fact have a project that they want to keep themselves and continue on, getting the energy from other people to finish these projects can happen. And that works with the whole electromagnetic thing, and that's going out to coffee shops or out in the public, or an area where you can get your work done, but you can also continue to finish your project that you actually started. So for instance, if you have a book that you want to write and you can't quite seem to bring it to close, well, just going out and working in an area where it's public, where a library or anywhere where there are other people around, chances are pretty good that you will get that energy you need to finish the project. So if we go on to the sacral energy, we see the 14, which I mentioned, that's just a natural luck energy. We also have the 34, which we talked about, which is the power, and a lot of power in this energy. And if you need more information about this whole channel, just check out my Ted Bundy and Mother Teresa videos, and also the James Charles and Taddy Westbrook videos that I have in Life Explained with Human Design, because that will talk a lot about this channel. There's also the 5 energy, and the 5 energy is somebody who theoretically could really like to have a regular routine. They don't like to have big changes. They might like to have the same mug that they drink coffee from every morning. They might like to drive the same route to work every day. And there could be a lot of difficulties with changes in routines. And especially since it's up in the unconscious sun. So the assumption is that this person is over the age of 40, and that they would know at this point that that's part of who they are. But when they were younger, they may have wanted the routines and had an issue with routines changing, but not really understood that that was part of who they were. And the thing about the gate 5 is it is an aura busting energy. So you have a lot of aura busting energy, which means basically when this person walks into a room, as well as a gate 50, when this person walks into the room, people really will notice them. And that's the theme that I've noticed with all 3 charts, is these people are not wallflowers. They're people who are going to walk into a room, and people will really understand that somebody has walked into the room, and they can't just hide away in the corner even if they wanted to. And then you have the gate 9, which is it's attention to detail, and this detail can be what they would say seeing the forest for the trees, or really not focusing on the big picture, but just looking at the small picture of things, and just being almost to the point of sometimes there can be a little bit of obsession with this energy, because there's this need to know more and more information. It's like when somebody has this energy of the 9, they generally want to find out every detail about everything that they learn about. And then if you combine it with the idea that this person is a 1-3 profile, you have somebody who really wants to know all the information that they can find out, and to the point of just they can't stop trying to learn and get more information. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, because the energy of the 9 can be overwhelming, because there's a repetition and this whole need to get into deeper and deeper and to find the information. So if that's the case, sometimes you just have to step away from it and give yourself a break, and understand that even if you want to continue on, sometimes your body and your mind both need a break, because this person also has some head gates, which I'll talk about in a minute. So on the will center, we have the gate 26 and also the gate 40. So the gate 26 is all about sales, and this is about a sale that's good for you as well as the people, and it's a tribal energy. It's about selling products or ideas or anything, or even yourself. But when you're selling it, you're selling it for the good of everyone, just not for yourself. So everybody benefits, not just one person. Now, there is a potential for somebody to sell things that are not necessarily good for the benefit of everybody, because there's a lot of empowering energy, or an energy that says that this person is quite capable. Anybody with a defined will, just without anything else, is going to come across as very capable. They'll also be somebody who, if given a choice between somebody with a defined will and someone with an undefined will for a job opportunity, generally the person with a defined will can usually get the job, based on the idea that they give off this energy of they can get the job done. It's like a can-do kind of energy. They also have the gate 40, which is connected to gate 37, and they have that full channel, the gate 4037. This is energy of holding a bargain, or making a bargain, or making a deal. This is a person who could do well in business, because it's all about deal making and money making. Anything having to do with the will center is related to the abundance or the resources we bring in, and these are actual resources like money and material goods. When you have this whole channel, it means that this person is the type of person that if you break a deal with them, they're not going to be very happy. In fact, somebody who carries this energy, who goes through a divorce or a breakup, may really suffer a lot more than the average person, because when a deal is made, it's not meant to be broken, and people are meant to hold up their sides of the deal. Another thing with this energy is that when you carry the energy of the 4037, is that sometimes you make these ideas or these deals in your mind, and you don't necessarily articulate them. So you believe that people know exactly what you're thinking. And because of this, there can be some miscommunication. So it's really important when you have this channel that you're always extremely articulate and extremely clear on exactly what you're expecting from somebody, especially if you're deciding that you're going to do some sort of agreement with them. And if we go to the solar plexus, we see that it's defined, which means they have emotional wave. In fact, they have two emotional waves. So any full channels that come from the emotional center are connected to the emotional wave. So you have the emotional wave of the 4037, which is tribal, and you also have the emotional wave of the 3536, which is collective. So when you have a tribal wave, which is the 4037, that's all about family or friends or people who matter to you or people who are in your tribe. If there's some issues in that department of your life, then that will be when this is activated. So this is where you can get quite upset or have a lot of emotional feelings about things that are happening to friends or family. And it would only be activated generally if there's issues happening. And that could be definitely when there's a marriage breakup or a breakup of a relationship or a deal that you've made and feel that it should have been kept and it wasn't. The other aspect is the 3536. That's another type of emotional wave. Now, this is what you call a collective wave. So it's not a huge emotional wave in that it's not an individual. But the thing about the collective wave is that it's a slow build up to go to the highest point. So you're slowly kind of gradually going up to your highest point in your emotional wave. And when I talk about your emotional wave, I'm talking about the highest point as in you're most happy. And then what happens with the collective wave is you would have a real rapid drop. So you're at your, like you could have someone who one day they're feeling at the top of their game, like the best they've ever felt. And then the next day they just go right down to the pits of despair. But it doesn't last very long because of this. It slowly starts to climb back up. So it's something that can happen like a dramatic drop in the mood, but then the mood slowly starts to climb back up and it doesn't last for very long, as opposed to an individual wave, which can, dip and stay there for quite a while, a couple days or sometimes more, depending upon who you are. If we move up to the throat, we see that I've already talked about the 35. This is a person who can be good at a lot of things, and as they get older they become more discerning with the things they want to start to do. And then we also have the gate 16. Now this is another energy that can sell things to people, but the only way you can sell things to people is, unlike the 26, it's all about something that you're enthusiastic about. And so this enthusiasm that you have about some idea that you're trying to sell or some you don't actually even have to want to sell it. It could be just something you're excited about. It's almost like an infectious enthusiasm. So when you're talking about information or things that you've learned, or just talking in general, people will get on board with you because you're so enthusiastic about what you're talking about. This can also be somebody who likes to just kind of get what they need to know, but then they don't like to get into the depths of things. But when you also have the profile 1-3, which is investigative and experimental, the energy is probably going to be somebody who is actually trying to figure out a lot of things. So even though you'd have this enthusiasm in without the 1-3, there's potential for somebody to have a lot of books but not actually read them. But when you have the gate 9 and then you have the 1-3 profile, you put all those together, and this could be somebody who wants to get to a lot of information about certain things. So if we go to the undefined centers, we see that this person has an undefined spleen, undefined root, undefined head, undefined ajna, and undefined identity. So we have 2 pressure centers here that are open. We have the open head and also the open root. So we have somebody who's going to be inspired a lot, and we also have someone who has a lot of pressure to do. So again, we have somebody with a lot of powerhouse of energy, and they have willpower, and they also have this drive to get things done. So there could be potential, again, to really be overdoing it, to going beyond their capabilities. When I talked about the root before, I said that it can be someone who wants to get a project done as soon as they receive it in their inbox, or somebody who likes to wait till last minute to get that adrenaline pumping before they get it done. So whoever it is, it's based on who they are as an individual and how it works in their system. But ultimately, there is that level of a lot of pressure and a lot of energy as well. And if you look at the spleen, we already talked about the root center and the gates on the root center. So if you look at the spleen, we see that the gate 50 and gate 28 and gate 18 are all defined. So you have the spleen, which is open, which means this person can be medically intuitive, or they can feel the energy or the health energy of other people. And when you have an open spleen, you can have a tendency to hold on to things. So there could be that potential as well. And you also have the gate 50. The gate 50 is the fear of not taking care of the people that matter the most to you, and that would be tribal energy. It's basically the fear that you're going to let people down in your life. So a lot of times there's overdoing, over caring, doing for people that could do for themselves. There's always potential for that. The gate 50 is an authoritarian energy. This is the energy of somebody who could be a police officer, or somebody who is used to enforcing rules or following the rules to a T. Then you also have the gate 28, and the gate 28 is the gate of, they call it the gate of struggle, and the gate 28 is in the planet Uranus or Uranus. And the thing about that is that they may struggle with things that other people don't struggle with. So usually Uranus is a place where you're a little more unusual than other people in your beliefs or how you operate. It's in the gate 28, as I just said, and also the gate 50, and the gate 50 is about which I just talked about the fear that you're not going to, or you're going to let somebody down. It's also about rules. So this whole thing in the gate, in the Uranus energy, is related to unusual rules, or just different things than other people think in that respect, in the rules and regulations that you have, and also in the struggles that you have in your life. The gate 28 can be an energy that slows you down, and that it makes you take the hard route for everything you do. And the whole reason of that is that you're learning the struggles that are worth fighting for, and the things that can be let go. And that's a lifelong journey. And usually you get a little bit more clear as you go along and get a little bit older and a little bit more mature. So after the age of 40 in general. And the gate 18 is this whole need to have things perfect. And when things aren't perfect, there's this energy that you can never get anything perfect enough in life. And again, all the energies that are the fears of the spleen are to be pushed through, because as soon as you start to push through and see that it's not as bad as you thought it was, it will get easier every time you do that. So if we move up to the identity center, we see that there's 2 gates defined. We have the gate 13 and also the gate 1. The great gate 1 is all about feeling that you have something big to contribute to the world, and that you want to give it to the world, whatever that is. It's a creative contribution that can help the world in general. And the gate 13 is the gate of the listener. This is a person who could potentially have an interest in history or things from the past. And there's also the potential that somebody who has this energy is always being inundated with other people's secrets and stories. The gate of the listener usually is an energy that tells people that you're a good listener, and it also tells people that they can tell you all the problems and all their secrets. And you may be getting secrets and information from people that you never ever wanted or expected. And the reasons why these stories are important, because they're stories of other people, and what we can learn from other people's journeys is a lot about ourselves and a lot about our journey, and it can help us to move forward in our lives. So this information can be helpful for other people that maybe someday you'll meet, and you'll have some advice that can be drawn from some of these stories from the past or some stories from other people. And this person also has an open identity. An open identity is somebody who can sometimes struggle in their life to figure out exactly who they want to be, what they want to do, their life direction, because it's difficult for somebody with an open identity to pick one thing. They want to pick many things. And the idea with somebody with an open identity is that it's completely fine to pick as many things as they like, but at some point, if you have too many things and there's just too many different things that are going in too many different directions, you have no energy for one particular thing. So it's better to pick a handful or a few things that are very important to you. And as you get older, it's easier to discern what's right for you and what isn't right. And then when you pick those things that are really important, then you can start to invest more time and effort into them and make them more viable than they would if you had too many things going at the same time. For somebody with an open identity, it's important that they have an environment, a living environment, or a work environment, or an environment where they're spending time where they're feeling really comfortable. They have to feel comfortable in their environment. If they feel uncomfortable in their environment, then that usually means that they may not have the success that they want. So if somebody who has an open identity is in a toxic work area, or the energy in their workspace is really difficult, then they may have a difficult time being their best at their job, and they may not get the promotions they want. They may not, this is all the theory in human design, that the opportunities that they should be getting may not actually happen because they're in the wrong work environment or the wrong home environment. So it's important for somebody with an open identity to feel comfortable in their environment as much as possible. And if that means adjusting the furniture or things like that, then they need to do that to make themselves feel comfortable. And especially when you have somebody who has a gate 5 as well, because that's a person who likes routine. So anybody who has all this energy of an open identity as well as the gate 5 will be somebody who needs to have an environment that's conducive to what they like and what they feel comfortable in to get their best work and energy in their life. And if we go up to the ajna, we see that there's only one gate defined, and that's the gate 17. The gate 17 is all about opinions, and the opinions are something that a lot of times people with this energy can give without actually being asked for them. And the thing about opinions is they can be valuable because it can help people to improve on things that they're doing in their life, but if they're not asked for, then a lot of times they're taken as somebody being intrusive. So the thing about any of the energy that comes from the ajna is to always wait for it to be drawn out of you or to be asked for. And if it is, then it's going to be taken a lot better than if you're actually just offering it. Then if we move into the head, we already talked about it being a pressure center, and there's a lot of inspiration when somebody has an open head because they're influenced by all the energy around them from anybody who has a defined head. And we also see that they have the gate 64 and also the gate 63. Now the gate 64 is all about big downloads from the universe, and it's also about they say it's like the plug point to super consciousness. So people who have this energy can definitely be psychic. That's not always the case, but there is a great potential for that. And they also have the gate 63, and the gate 63 is all about being doubtful or not seeing things as being truthful until there's some proof that is given. And so what this means is that this person might have these super consciousness connections or these big downloads or information from places that they can't really explain where it's coming from, and then they might doubt that they actually even had a connection at all. So that's the thing about this 63. Now the 63 is a wonderful energy because we can't just happily go through life and never doubt anything and it just say everything is perfect and everything's good. We have to have some level of seeing that not everything that we do is going to work, and having some critical energy that may cast some doubt on certain things. But ultimately what happens is if this is taken in its low side, then this is a person who can doubt a lot of things. They can doubt other people, they can doubt themselves, they can doubt pretty much anything, especially when it's right up there in their conscious sun. So everything that happens to them, it's filtered through the sun, so everything is going to be filtered through their doubt and suspicion. And the secret with this energy is to know when there is a need to doubt something and when there is a need to just understand that some things just happen in life and we can't really explain why they happen, but we also can't doubt that they happen just because we feel that they should have some proof, especially when you have the gate 64, which is again giving some major downloads but really no tangible outlet to say exactly where it's coming from. And so you could have a lot of intuition but really struggle to really get on board with it and really think that it's anything of value. So if we look at the incarnation cross, we can see that the top 4 numbers are the 63 in the conscious sun, the 64 in the conscious earth, the 5 in the unconscious sun, and the 35 in the unconscious earth. So this is called the right angle cross of consciousness. This cross is considered quite expansive, and the purpose is to create a new understanding and systems based on the understanding from the past. It's generally not something that's mutative because we're talking about information from the past and how it can be brought into the future and improved. And it's somebody who is always looking at the bigger concepts of humanity because you have the gate 64 and you have 2 gates of dreaming, which we know that any gates, the 64, 61, and 63 are all gates of dreaming. So there could be some prophetic dreams here, somebody who's dreaming a lot of things that can be changed in the future as well. And they can have, anybody with this energy, especially when you have a open head, can have a lot of questions about life because you're inspired a lot. And so you would be inspired to ask a lot of questions as well. And if you have the gate 35 in the unconscious earth, it's talking about somebody who has a lot of different ideas and a lot of different interests. Somebody who's naturally good at a lot of different things and has quite a few talents that are just natural to them. So this is somebody who can stimulate a lot of conversation in different things because they have a lot of expertise and they've tried a lot of different things, especially when they have an open identity. You have somebody who likes to try a lot of different things, because somebody with an open identity is extremely curious about the world around them. But also there's this need for stability, to have a stable environment. So this person may not necessarily be going out and going to different people who they don't know and putting themselves out of their comfort zone. They might be having these stimulating conversations with people that they know or people that they feel comfortable with. So ultimately with this incarnation cross, there is a potential to have some extremely stimulating conversations, and because they also have the gate 9, there could be this need to get more information, this obsession with getting more information, some more ideas, some more experiences, to learn more about life. And again, when you also have the open identity, this could be somebody who just literally is always wanting to get something new and exciting in their life. The only thing that might hold them back is the gate 5, which is something that will want them to stay in routines. So on one hand, they're wanting to stick with the routines, stick with what they know and what they feel comfortable with. And then the other side of them is looking to get all these brand new experiences. So there could be a little bit of a conflict in this incarnation cost because of it. But hopefully, because they have the investigative and experimental energy, they'll move beyond their comfort zone and be able to jump into the experiences that will give them the information and the excitement that they're looking for, because the gate 35 will always be looking for some excitement in their life or something new and innovative, especially when you also have the gate 36, which is the gate of chaos, or this need to always be jumping into brand new adventures. And there could be a real deep need to be traveling or a deep desire to be traveling. Again, if the potential's there, they could be doing the traveling, but just as easily, if the potential's not there, they could not be traveling and only dreaming about traveling. And again, we go back into the gates of dreaming, and we also have this ability to get lost in the head if they want to. But if we look at Jupiter, the gate 36, which is the gate of jumping into new adventures, that's a reward. So if they get the provocation and starting thing pieces straightened out in their Saturn, they'll get the rewards, which is having the ability to have peace, which is the 37, and also the 36, which is also about just having new adventures and bringing peace to chaos, basically. So in the long run, this person could be someone who's amazing at crisis management, because not only can they bring order to chaos, they can also bring that energy of the will center, or the willpower, which is not only all about willpower, it's also about an empowerment. So it empowers the people around them and makes the people that are around them feel good about themselves, and can even help people with courage to get through their life. So that's about all I have to say about that chart, and thank you for listening, and I hope that there's some value in what I've said today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them, and I'll see you soon with some more videos.